Can I just ask Richard? Richard, there are lots of theories about how these emails found their way into the public domain. What's your take on that?
Well, there are some facts in the system which Roger seems to ignore, and I wish he'd stop prejudicing the debate by talking about stolen emails. The latest response from the local police is that they're now looking into a misuse of data. All the forensic evidence, and this has been trawled over by some very, very expert computer people, points to all the files being aggregated on a single server. UAE have actually admitted that. And there is equally a possibility, in fact a very, very strong possibility, that this was an inside job and a leak by somebody who was actually disaffected with what was going on inside the unit. So to talk about, we've had wonderful theories about intelligence agencies and hackers and this and that and the other. This is prejudicing the inquiry against the reality is that it is probably an internal job, and thus to talk about stolen emails and hackers and all the rest is I think, distorting the debate and not helping the listener and the general public understand what has been going on there.
Roger, did you take that?
I would like to know what a better term would be. They've been referred to consistently as stolen emails. I know there are other theories about that there was an inside job. The fact is that they were private emails, not for publication, and the people who had them published on the internet consider them to have been stolen. They've been referred to have been stolen. I'm not sure what else we would call them. Taken without permission. This is another one of these things where you probably need a sentence rather than a word.
Roger, sorry.
I think this is not a helpful. This is honestly, this is not a helpful debate at the moment to talk about whether they've been stolen or not. A review has been set up today.
Well, don't refer to it as being stolen.
Can we? I think we should be thinking today, and this is how this gets bogged down in arguments. Please, it would be a change as well if we could get into a debate without having insults as well. That would be a nice change.
Well, all the points I'm making,
Roger,
is stop prejudicing the debate.
Roger, can I take you on to a different...
You are making an assumption in your terminology.
Richard, can I just ask Roger another question? Because I want to open this up a bit, and the impact, clearly, this is going to have, and you can just hearing you two there, on the impact on reporting of science more broadly, and how people know who to trust and where they get their information. It must be very difficult to report on science in an objective way, because both sides of the argument are so entrenched, aren't they?
Yes.
It's particularly difficult. I think what this email affair shows is the Climategate. At the moment, this inquiry is looking into very, very narrow into whether or not they abused the data. I think, actually, in itself, what is more interesting is to look beyond Climategate into the whole of climate science, because what Climategate and the Glaciergate, the horrible mistake from the IPCC about the glaciers, reveals is that I think a lot of people are ready now to examine climate change at its fundamentals, and that will be, I think, very helpful. What's been difficult for people reporting the mainstream debate in the past has been that what we would call our trusted sources of science, people like the Royal Society, the various other corollary bodies in different countries, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, set up to be the touchstone of probity on this issue, they have been the providers of news. And the people who have been doubting this news have, generally speaking, not been academics. I'm on a trawl for academics at the moment in British universities, science academics. There are hardly any. They have been doubters from other quarters, and it's been very difficult for us to tell what are the credentials when all these establishment voices are lined up on one side. How can we pit them against a blogger on the other side who might happen to be a blogger who has for the past 15 years spent 100 hours on the internet reading climate science and has a good knowledge, but we don't know how to test this.
Can I bring Stephen Curry in? He's Professor of Structural Biology at Imperial College, and he's been writing in today's Guardian about the potential damage done when science hits the front pages. Hello, Stephen.
Hello there.
Is it important that people have got faith in the country's scientists? They can trust the evidence they're presenting?
I think it's fundamentally important because at the bottom, science is our best way of understanding the natural world. And, scientists are trained from the very beginning to be skeptical, to try and formulate hypotheses, to design experiments, to test them, and to criticize one another's work, and then try and present it, first of all, to their peers, to other scientists, so that the findings can be checked. But there's an issue here I guess, today with many important issues such as climate change, of trying to get that information across to the public in a way that is digestible.
And do politicians have a proper understanding, do you think, of the issues?
I think some of them do, and do a good job, but there are many that I guess simply don't have the background to sort of properly understand the scientific process, and so it's a challenge for them.
Roger's already kind of alluded to the fact that the public want to consume their news in bite-sized pieces, and we want things very quickly explained to us. Are some issues, such as climate change, just too complex for the public to understand?
They are certainly very complex, but I think it's vitally important that the public can understand them. And I think probably scientists probably have to do a better job of being open and presenting all the evidence that they have accumulated in support of man-made global warming. And I don't think really there's any serious doubt among the climate science community about that. There are plenty of uncertainties about what's going to happen in the future. But it's a matter of trying then to present that complexity to the public. We often have to rely on journalists and other media outlets to present that case. And of course they're very adept at putting stories together, and they're very pushed for space or for airtime, which tends to drive a simplification. And as your correspondent, I think, said, these are very difficult issues, and so it is a really challenging thing to try and put that across. But I would hope that scientists and journalists actually could work together on this a bit more.
That's vital, isn't it, Richard
one another?
North? Yeah, Richard North. Sorry,
you talk about trust in scientists, but actually the default mode of the public, of politicians, and of other scientists should be scepticism. Well, we should not trust scientists. We should look at what they say, and if they can't explain themselves properly, then automatically we should be
But you're assuming a lot of knowledge, though, Richard, for people to cross-examine, aren't you? I'm talking about the general public. Reading a newspaper are not necessarily going to cross-examine a scientist who's had years and years of training and years of research.
Well, that's precisely what's happening, and in fact, ordinary people, this whole thing is being led by the grassroots, by bloggers and other, commentators. Just read the comments on, say, look at the newspapers online and look at the comments on them. There is far more intelligence and knowledge out there in the British public than, in fact, sometimes you see within the scientific community, and there are internal inconsistencies in the evidence we're being given that ordinary people can see, and they can say, look, you've said this, you've said that, the two don't match, explain yourself. And instead of responding to that, what you're getting is this defensive wall saying, no, the debate is settled, the science is settled, there is no debate. And it's the scientific community and the political community. Don't forget, Gordon Brown was calling us flat earthers, which was a really healthy contribution to the debate. The fact that they have not been willing to entertain discussion and questions, and perfectly genuine questions, has actually poisoned the atmosphere. They've got to learn humility and turn round to genuine inquiries and say, yeah, hey, and look, ordinary bloggers, all right, I've got a PhD, so I'm a scientist, but I pulled down 3 of the gates, and I've been looking through the IPCC report and pulling out complete errors. Now, Roger Harabin called them mistakes, and that's poisoning the debate because the lead author of Climategate said this was not a mistake. He's
Richard,
on record saying that.
Thank you very much. I'm going to bring Roger back on that point.